tool can be used as an attack tool, bypassing perimeters. I would like to invite Mr. Yossi Sassi from CyberArt Security to explain to us why SOCs matter. Welcome.
Welcome, thank you. Right, thank you everybody. I'm going to explain to you why socks matter, because it's cold, you know, if you don't wear socks, so it's probably gonna influence your health. I'm a white hat hacker. Basically, I'm a hacker. I play around with computers for a bit over 30 years. And the reason I'm a white hat is something in my parents' upbringing. Although I didn't finish school, I was at home around 12, 13 years old. But something there worked right. And how can I prove to you that I'm a white hat? Because, you know, as Mr. Raj Samani just said, and it's true, nation-states are actually addressing third-party and independent hackers to help them. But I'm a white hat. Reason one is that I'm here standing talking to you. Second of all, I'm a classified hacker, active hacker working for the government and military. So I'm being monitored anyway. And I'm not leaving the country without any permission. So trust me, I'm a hacker, as Anna just said. So what we're going to speak about the shift in the APT landscape and a big paradigm shift in cyber kill chain that we all rely upon, the Mitre attack, etc. And I'll tell you a bit about my insights from the work that we're doing in the field with over 100 in the 20 plus years, 100 successful security assessments, PTs, catch the flag. Essentially, sadly, I say it with a sad tone, every customer we had, military, missile bases, ATMs for the largest banks, we succeeded. It's not because we're that good, well, we also know what we are doing, but it's because that with motivation and time, we will hack any network. And my message to you today is the shift in the new perimeters, why I literally really don't believe in firewalls, endpoint protection, etc. I'll explain why, and hopefully I'll get a chance to show you as much from our research. So I'm basically also a musician. That's a good balance to keep me sane from what's happening in our insane industry. Co-founder of CyberArt, that's our work in security. I'm a board member of Javelin Networks, recently acquired by Symantec Corporation. Of course, I refused to go to Symantec when I was acquired because I'm an independent hacker and I love to create software. But I had my fair share of corporates in Microsoft for around a decade. I wrote some tools that you are probably using in your Windows server, and you probably downloaded a few patches in the last 2-3 years from vulnerabilities that we found in Microsoft operating system. And although I didn't finish school, I had some years. When I worked in Microsoft, I had time, actually, to do some studies. So, basically, we have no speakers, right, in the presentation. Can we get the speakers? But you should have heard the Beatles. That's fine. Yeah. Love, 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 dun, 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 love. So, is love everything you need? Well, Maslow, the pyramid of needs, thinks differently, right? Everybody knows the pyramid of needs? Well, maybe you didn't heard. Latest research found that we have 2 more basic layers. Without that, you can't even begin with your needs, right? And this is cyber. When I want to explain people cyber, I say, you know, we moved as an industry for information security, 90s, to cyber because it's this very delicate boundary where hardware, you know, just this stuff, software, text that, who wrote it? You wrote it? You wrote it? I'm not sure. I wrote it? And people interact. And this boundary is so dissolving, and it's not sure where the person starts and the machine ends. So today, this is a reality, right? That I strongly believe in this. You know, I dance really, I dance poorly, but I don't care if you upload it to YouTube. But I also do some nice stuff to data. Just a quick example. Let's see why it's not running. It's running, yes, not, yeah. Okay, so here we have a file, you know, some financial report, blah, blah, blah. Just to set the tone, you know, on the stuff that we're handling when we say data. So it was created, modified, accessed on this date. And maybe I'll just jump over real quickly. Real quickly with this. And yeah, there we go. Is it okay? It's still running? Ooh. Oh. No, you're still seeing that, right? Okay. Not sure what happened to the slides, but okay, it's in the other. Now can we see that? Not sure. Okay, right. No, it's okay. Then I think I got it now. So okay, yes. So we have this file, right? Last accessed, modified, etc. I just want to breeze through a bit from about these videos, so we'll be able to catch as much as we can. So I'm restamping the files. You know, every file has a modified, accessed, created timestamp with manipulation on NTDLL. We can change that, obviously, for every piece of information that you're working with. So now we have a file that was created tomorrow. It was modified last time in a date that we all know where we were, September 11th, and last time somebody opened it was somewhere in the 90s. So, you know, this is what we do. This is the work we do. You know, we don't try, I personally don't understand how people still work with computers, but still, we strongly believe that any organization in the world can be hacked. All it takes is motivation and time. In motivation, we have money, ideology, right, industrial espionage, etc. But CIA hacked twice, just the last 3-4 years. NSA 3 times, and NASA 2 months ago. Airbus, blah blah blah. Marriott, Starwood. PowerShell in Windows operating systems. Everybody know about it? Heard it? Okay, so PowerShell is basically CMD on steroids, right? It's a shell that really is the best thing that Microsoft did in the last 20 years since it unified the kernels of the client and server. And by far, it really brings Microsoft to the experience that we, as people that work from command line with Linux and other operating systems, expect that company to do. And it's really amazing. PowerShell can run, every admin tool is basically an attack tool, right? So for administrators, it's amazing because you can run whatever you want. It can do whatever the operating system can think of. You can run fileless malware in memory without even launching a new process. But one of our research lately that I did with my team basically totally, fully bypasses everything in the workstation, including the PowerShell blue team techniques. And I will explain. So basically what Microsoft did, they did an amazing job for PowerShell blue team. So things that happened help the SOC, IR, etc. to protect from PowerShell attacks, from shell scripts, execution, injections, etc. And this comes in the term of an event log. You basically have a dedicated event log for PowerShell attacks, and you also have this amazing ability called transcripts. So script transcriptions basically audit everything you do, all the input, output of your session into text files, quite thin text files that you can also, as a best practice, create them on a file share with proper access control list permissions. So when I open PowerShell, when I run any shell of PowerShell, notice that immediately on the top, a new transcript appears. So this transcript essentially audits everything that happens in this session. And this can be configured in a centralized way through group policies in Active Directory and also on standalone machines. And as you can see, it really logs everything down to the nitty-bitty details, a lot of verbosity. PowerShell was run in this and that. And I see not only the input of the attacker's commands, but also the output, the data gained and the outcome of the attacker's actions. Also, it's important to note that PowerShell code can be run from anything, right? PowerShell exe is just a variant. So you can run it from anything else. As you can see, we also got the events. We have new events. We see a new console was ready for user input. And we see all the code behind. So there is a deobfuscation engine running. And you can see the commands that this shell executed. So we have logs, syslogs, that you can forward to a centralized location. And we have full auditing. That's amazing. Also, if you have PowerShell embedded into different processes, including, for example, this BIOS exe tool, and you probably have in your organization DLLs, executables, binaries that run PowerShell code, Docker for one out of many. But you will see that once I run it, a new transcript opened. That's amazing, Microsoft. Really amazing job. You can see the host application that ran the shell code. And it's all really detecting so well. And you can see the actual code, right? The WMI commands, and you can see the output. So really great transparency, great tool for IR, for SOCs, and to handle your operations. And of course, we have the events, right? When we refresh, we have new events, and we got this event, last event from 12/10/57 about this piece of code. So what we, and the transcript, of course, that we saw. So what we went ahead and did is we basically attached a low-level hook using a .NET profiler, and we really went through. We stepped into the code of the assembly of .NET, because PowerShell is essentially .NET code, and we managed to bypass it completely. Meaning, now I have a shell in memory, but nothing gets transcribed. So you are totally blind to anything that happens on this endpoint. And obviously, you know, I can run it in memory, fileless, from a URL. You wouldn't see it coming, and can bring it from a cat image or a baby image, etc. So this is the last piece of evidence this machine created from the transcript, totally blind. And of course, also in the event log, nothing new, nothing changed, 12:10:57. And now I can do whatever I want. I can run Mimikatz, I can, by the way, we disabled the antivirus on the same time, right? It's included. This was, as we say, okay, you can get this also. So this is a simulation of endpoint protection. I don't care what vendor it is, it's just a simulation of how they work. Don't get me wrong, please install and pay for endpoint protection, because in the laws of Pareto of the 80-20, you will lose a lot of script kiddies, but you will not lose me. I trust that. Because when we speak about the Gartner levels of adversaries, we start at 5, okay? Nation state is the only thing I care about. It doesn't matter if you're a small shop or an enterprise with complex environment. What about other perimeters, you know, like firewalls, etc.? Firewalls I really love because you know, I call them the rules of the format. It's like when I attack an organization, it's like a game. I really love to catch flags, really love, because I'm like a kid in a 45-year-old body, and I really love to do it. So I really love firewalls because they tell me exactly what I can do and what not. So that's great. It's amazing. It's like you go to a quiz or you know, like a show, entertainment, and they tell me, okay, you can come from this side to this side only on this port. This side, nothing. I say, okay, thanks for telling me, firewall. That's great. So I will exfiltrate your data from this side to this side using that point from that endpoint. That's all firewalls do. And there are so many ways to do command and control. Our last research by Dora Meat, which sadly couldn't be here today because he's at a customer, that's what we do. We are always in the field. We did some nice command and control with a machine that was totally isolated with Windows Firewall, but essentially, we transferred the payloads with dropped packets. So we have spoofed IP information, including in the address and in the sockets in the payload itself. What we do is, once we infect that machine, every connection we do, the log of that machine drops the packet, but the packet is actually encrypted with predefined rules. So the packet looks normal, but it's totally spoofed, and we convert back the binary data to the executable commands. So it's indirect command and control from spoofed dropped packets of your firewall on the machine. How else we bypass? You pick it up. It depends on the day. We were able, you see here some passive reconnaissance, of course, with some known tools. We have some SSH with Linux inside the machine as virtual NIC. We have, we've penetrated a few customers with Bluetooth pairing and SMS. So we have a phone, really old phone, all it does is Bluetooth. That's the biggest thing that it does, latest, with SMS. So I'm just putting it in an air-gapped closed network somewhere in the area of that infected machine, and I send SMS. SMS is sent via Bluetooth to that contractor machine or to that specific PC in the network with the little Bluetooth we added, and it gets executed with persistence on that machine, and then the Bluetooth sends back the data exfiltrated via SMS. So I get a lot of SMS messages, but I get the data from your network without TCP connections. And of course, rubber duck keys and stuff like that. Let's speak a bit about Active Directory. Yes, that's a phrase I coined. Who has Active Directory? Of course, don't be shy, everybody. It's 90% of the world's population, all Fortune 100, almost all Fortune 500, base their activities on Active Directory. Well, Active Directory is a database, essentially the Microsoft Domain Network means of management. And without it, we'll be back in the 90s, 1990-something, you know, without centralized management. So you get security, centralized security management, etc. But AD is exposed by design because of Kerberos, because of the way that it was designed in the mid-90s, the entire concept of Active Directory, DNS, and everything else. It has a lot of trust from every endpoint to that KDC, to that specific place, this database. And also this database is approached by dozens of protocols and APIs. You know, the WMI, RPC, DCOM, OLEDDB, you name it, right? So it's very, very easy to do reconnaissance on the Active Directory. I'll just do a very quick example of what anyone can do in your network now. When we are speaking, any normal user is doing that in your organization. Okay, every secretary, every whatever, can do that. As a domain user, without any special privileges on your network, on Active Directory, living off the land, totally legit code. In 3 words, you can see the domain password policy. In 5 words, you can see the domain admins of that organization. And we can continue and see the domain computers, etc. This is by design. So by design, and the beauty is, everything is living off the land, right? I don't introduce any malware. On the first stage that we are mapping the organization, we don't do active scanning, no Nmap and all this noisy stuff. We just do living off the land. And look here, once we upgrade to PowerShell or Python or any object-based, we can search for service principal names. This is living off the land. Still no special code. This is all in your machine. And service principal names essentially are published inside Active Directory for every service and application. If somebody installs in accounting a database instance, SQL instance, it is published in the directory. So basically in simple LDAP queries, yes, we can get a lot of reconnaissance and to map the assets of the organization. And if I take this piece of code and I upload it to VirusTotal, it's totally green by all the engines, right? Because it's your management tools. That's great. But as you know, we say, okay, so what is left for us? Reconnaissance, very easy. Endpoint security, trivially bypassed by skilled adversaries. So all we have to do is logging, right? Syslogging, just send a lot of data to some centralized location and try to make sense of it with the help of algorithms, of course, not humans. It's very, very hard. But as you know very well, one does not simply generate meaningful analysis from multiple logs. And this is reality. Logs really look the same on the day of a routine and the day of breach. Actually, when I look at the logs on the left, they look even worse than the logs on the right. It looks like a more serious piece of code running there. And that's really a big challenge. And I think that's where the industry is heading. You know, all the perimeters we used to think about are pretty much gone for skilled adversaries. All is left is the meaningful logging, because sometime, at some point of a serious attack, whether it's to harm the information or exfiltrate data or to sabotage whatever, somebody will have to act on the data. Somebody will have to touch something. And that something needs to be monitored. And that monitoring activity, that logging, needs to be meaningful, meaning logging is not detecting. It's very far from detecting. It's just piling up a lot of information in a single location. Actually, your $1 million SIEM can make your time to resolve increase because you are collecting too much information. Sometimes it hurts the default intuitivity that maybe your team has. And that's really challenging. And detecting, of course, is far from mitigating. So with that said, there is just a quick demo of what we do in Javelin Networks. So this is your domain admins. Basically, what we did is we inject the machine. Once we choose to deploy, we map all the domain members, and we inject the machine with a piece of code with SMB invocation via the network. We have no agent, no service, no WMI persisted, nothing, no registry, no blah, blah, blah. We are in-memory dissolvable. We are a ghost. We don't exist. You don't see us in list DLLs. We are a unloaded driver in memory residing as a parasite inside the operating system in Windows and Mac kernels because they're very predictive. And once we do that, when we come back to that machine that we just deployed on it actively, so when that attacker or anybody for that sake on that machine does again that same command, they will get garbage. And they will get deception. But this is the future of deception. This is not like honeypot stuff, fake stuff. Very easy to detect honeypots, by the way. We have some scripts that detect the fake objects in your network. If you want, you can download them from our website. But as a service for the industry. But as you can see, now everything is fake around you. But we didn't touch the infrastructure. We're just controlling the attacker's perception in memory from every endpoint. And once the attacker enumerations of garbage really don't do anything. But once the attacker tries to act on the faked objects, on the obfuscated data, okay, that's when we know we have an evade, right? So we are very good at high fidelity true signals because we hate false positives. We hate being the boy who cried wolf scenario, all these systems that bring us a lot of signals, but it's at a certain time we begin to not look at them. So now we know we have an event because this is real event. Somebody acted on an object that exists only in his imagination. And we don't touch the infrastructure. We don't install anything anywhere. This is totally network-based in memory. And this is something that the cyber kill chain should have had a long time ago. And once you're in an event, you know, we have a forensic report. In no stage, does the endpoint talk with me? Everything happens one way. We know about the event from the event logs on the security log on the domain controllers, and we approach the station, not the station. The station nobody talks to us. We are totally firewalled, right? And you have PDF, we have JSON, and now once we have forensic report, we drill down, we dive into the incident, and now we show you everything you need to know, Windows artifacts, current status, the net stat of that machine, etc. And I will not go over all this detail, but once we come back to that machine, when we try to continue from that shell, well, it is mitigated. So not only deception, we also contain the malware process, because what we do is essentially we cut its wings, right? It's a dead fish in the water. No terminate handles threads and no ability to create new heads, trails, and threads. So basically, you keep the forensics, right? You can dump the process, you can get the strings in memory, and that's it. So that's the idea behind what we do there. Really, really unique solution for Active Directory networks, and it also includes an ongoing Active Directory simulation to do that. The last thing I want to show you, because time doesn't permit to show you all the cool toys that I've done in the last year or so, is to deobfuscate any command with the research I was involved with, but led by Omer Yair, the very talented guy of our endpoints team. And BBL Shellfish, what it does is the ultimate solution for deobfuscating any shell commands in Windows. And it does a better job than the AMSI and antivirus itself. And I will show you what it means. Once we install BBL Shellfish, and this is public work, you can get it from my GitHub and Omer's GitHub. So once we install that, it basically looks for every command, every obfuscated command that runs. You know, obfuscation is a real pain. But we catch it very, very low, and we have our own technique to deobfuscate any type of obfuscation that machine code knows. So for example, let's begin with a very simple example. When we type "who am I" and run it, So we look at the logs of BBL Shellfish. We see AMSI, the anti-malware service interface of Windows, sees AMSI, it sees who am I. That's great. We see exact location from where it's running, but so far, no difference. What we see and what Windows or your antivirus will see is the same. Next, let's try to obfuscate this command and to top it a notch a bit further. And now we will obfuscate this command, who am I, in this format. Of course, there are a lot of variants that you can run any commands that you want. When we run who am I in this form, and we look back again in the logs, so AMSI looks at it, has no idea what we want from it, right? It throws some debugger, hidden, error, false, whatever, automation, exception, command not found. But we, BBL Shellfish, free solution for you to integrate with your SOC, is obfuscating the command. Now let's go for a really juicy stuff. We will turn on the antivirus, and maybe you've heard about Matt Graber's disabling your AMSI in one tweet. It's basically a known vulnerability that in one line, yes, this one line with the system automation AMSI utils, we basically set AMSI init failed, and we set a Boolean value, and we bypass the antivirus. So, but of course, Microsoft patched it. You see, the script contains malicious content, has been blocked by antivirus, because Microsoft knows this is a vulnerability. So it blocks it. It's a known vulnerability. Very easy, by the way, one-liner to do this. But let's see if we obfuscate this very known vulnerability that's in the wild for a couple of years now. Let's see what the antivirus does when we run it obfuscated. It's running. And we are effectively we disabled the antivirus in the machine with a single tweet. But this is what AMSI sees. But wait a minute. What we see is the real deobfuscated code. We see the invoke, we see the system reflection assembly, we see the AMSI utils, we see the true code behind the obfuscated data of any code that you run on your system. So this is our service to the community. This came out wrong. I'm a white hat. I don't want to do service for the computer. I want to do good service for the computing. Okay. So my key takeaways, really I could go on forever because I love software, I love people, and I love the way people get hacked by software, and I love my daughters. Really, my daughters, my three amazing daughters, the big one is going to the army soon, they keep me close to you in the good side, in the forces of the light. So I'm thankful for them, you know. So motivation and time is all it takes to hack any organization. Any organization will be hacked eventually. All it needs is motivation and time. Given the right amount of money and resources, we will hack any organization. It's just a matter of time and motivation. Easy to get in, very easy to bypass perimeter, easy to reconnaissance. Perimeters, really, you should rethink this whole issue because keep your perimeter defenses on. It's basic controls, that's nice. Somebody has to compensate on them. And I think really it's all about the logging, but meaningful logging. Not about just throwing a pile of data and trying to make sense of it. And I respect everything that's going on with AI, machine learning, NLPs, and the likes. That's very good. It's a good direction where we're heading. Still not totally quite there for skilled adversaries. And really, honestly, I think physical security and meaningful logging is the last defenses standing, right? Because if you want to have high fidelity, true signals, detection and mitigation, probably those are the last controls that you have. So I hope I was okay with the times. And if you have any questions, I will be happy to answer them. Yes.
I have a lot of questions, but
yes.
I think everybody wants to go to a coffee break. Ask them in the
Yeah, that's why I was hurrying, because of the coffee break. You know, food is the pyramid of needs. Food, listening to a hacker speaking about serious stuff that he knows about, is a pyramid of needs. You know, coffee is more important than me, I know. Okay, so so you want one for everybody, or we'll take it offline maybe?
Yeah, let's take that.
Yeah, okay, great. So let's take it offline. I want just to finish up with some links, and thanks to the amazing team, Omer Yair, Doramit, and of course the gang in Javelin, that our ex-Israeli Air Force, where I work also as a retainer consultant, and really amazing job by this team. And I just hope that we keep on narrowing this gap, the window of opportunity for attackers, because in this battle we are losing. And we really want to give a fair chance in a very unfair battlefield where we are all losing every day. So thank you so much.